Anyone who studied galactic history knows that the great misunderstanding of 2157 began on a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday, especially not when Commander Jack Murphy's coffee machine decides to die at precisely 0847 hours. "Come on, you overpriced heap of," Murphy muttered, smacking the side of the machine with perhaps more force than necessary. The LED display flickered weakly in response, as if to say, "I've given you my best years and this is how you treat me." That's when the massive holographic projection appeared in the sky above every major city on Earth. Murphy didn't notice. He was too busy performing emergency coffee machine surgery with a paperclip and what might have been a contraband screwdriver. The fact that his office at the Global Defense Command had suddenly turned purple from the alien light show barely registered. "People of Earth," boomed a voice that managed to sound both thunderous and oddly nasally, like a cosmic pronouncement delivered through a cheap drive-through speaker. "We, the Grand Galactic Council of Unified Species, hereby declare war upon your planet." Murphy glanced up briefly. "Uh-huh," he said, then went back to poking the coffee machine's water intake valve. "Your primitive civilization has been deemed too dangerous to join the galactic community," continued the voice, which belonged to High Chancellor Visit Tix of the Council. The Chancellor's species resembled what might happen if you crossed a jellyfish with a peacock and then gave it an accountant's personality. "Your barbaric practices and chaotic nature pose an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally." The coffee machine made a promising gurgling sound. Additionally, the Chancellor added, his tentacles rippling with bureaucratic satisfaction, "You must submit Form GC 1457B, the official declaration of submission in triplicate. Failure to properly notarize all copies will result in immediate planetary bombardment." Murphy finally got the coffee machine working. The sweet aroma of fresh coffee filled his office and he took a long, appreciative sip. Only then did he actually process what was happening outside his window. "Huh," he said, watching the holographic tentacles wave menacingly above the city skyline. "That's new." He pressed the intercom button on his desk. "Hey Linda, can you get me the UN on the line? And maybe call that pizza place down the street. I have a feeling this is going to be a long day." Linda's voice crackled back, "The one with the good garlic knots or the one with the free delivery?" "Garlic knots, definitely garlic knots. Also, can you draft up a memo about the alien invasion? Mark it as moderate priority. Put it right after the parking validation issue but before the cafeteria's Mystery Meat Monday complaint." In orbit above Earth aboard the Council's flagship Bureaucratic Inevitability, Chancellor Visit Tix was having a minor meltdown. "What do you mean they're not panicking?" he demanded, his tentacles tying themselves into literal knots. "We just declared war. There should be chaos. Screaming. At least one person running through the streets yelling about the end times." His aide, Junior Administrative Assistant Plex, shuffled through several holographic displays. "Sir, we're detecting a significant spike in social media activity, but it appears to be primarily memes." "Memes?" "Yes, sir. Apparently, your holographic projection has already been edited into something called a reaction GIF and is being used to express mild inconvenience at everyday situations." "Mild inconvenience?" Visit Tix's color shifted from his normal professional mauve to an outraged puce. "We are the Grand Galactic Council. We have conquered civilizations. We have standardized filing systems across 17 dimensions. Our forms are feared across the known universe." Sir Plex interjected carefully, "They appear to be scoring your war declaration on something called Rotten Tomatoes. The reviews are mixed." On Earth, Murphy finished his coffee and finally got around to reading the actual war declaration, which had helpfully been transmitted to every computer on the planet. He had to admit, the formatting was impeccable. The margins were exactly 1.5 inches, and they'd even used the extra threatening Calibri font. "Linda," he called out, "do we still have that in case of alien invasion protocol binder? Bottom drawer right under in case of zombie apocalypse and just above in case the coffee machine gains sentience." Murphy pulled out the binder, flipped through it, and nodded sagely. "Right. Step 1, don't panic. Step 2, order pizza." Well, we're already ahead of schedule. Above the city, Chancellor Visit Tix's hologram was still waiting for a response, its tentacles starting to droop slightly from holding the same menacing pose for too long. Murphy opened his window and shouted up at it, "Hey, quick question, does your species have any food allergies? We're ordering pizza for the emergency response meeting, and we like to be inclusive." The silence that followed was probably the longest in galactic history. Finally, the Chancellor's voice boomed again, though now it had a distinct note of confusion. What do you mean, any food allergies? We are declaring war on your planet. Yeah, got that part, Murphy called back. But that's no reason to be rude about lunch. Also, any chance we could reschedule the invasion for next week? It's just that we've got this whole hot dog eating contest thing this weekend, and you wouldn't believe the paperwork involved in rescheduling that. In the bureaucratic inevitabilities war room, Visitix turned to his generals, his tentacles trembling with uncertainty. Did they just try to reschedule our war declaration because of processed meat tubes? And that, as they say, was just the beginning. Bureaucracy at its finest. Administrator Luna Patel prided herself on three things: her ability to solve the Sunday crossword in under 10 minutes, her collection of novelty coffee mugs, and most importantly, her perfectly organized filing system. So when the alien war declaration landed on her desk at the United Nations, she knew exactly what to do with it. Let's see, she muttered, adjusting her glasses. Threats of planetary destruction, demands for unconditional surrender, multiple appendages shown in threatening poses. Ah yes, this clearly goes under for miscellaneous correspondence. Her assistant Tom peered over her shoulder. Are you sure that's the right category? They did specifically mention planetary bombardment. Did they fill out Form UN-7B? What's Form UN-7B? Luna sighed, the sigh of someone who had dedicated their life to proper documentation. Request for consideration of planetary bombardment. It's right next to the form for declaring your intention to unleash ancient cosmic horrors. Nobody reads the handbook anymore. Meanwhile, aboard the bureaucratic inevitability, Chancellor Visitix was discovering that declaring war on humanity was like trying to herd cats. If the cats had internet access and a peculiar obsession with creating memes about their own potential doom. Sir Plex reported, "We've received a response from Earth's governing body." Visitix brightened. Finally, they've accepted our terms of surrender. Not exactly. They've sent us a stack of forms. According to this cover letter, we need to fill out applications for hostile alien intent, parking permits for invasion fleet vessels, environmental impact assessment for planetary bombardment, and, apparently, if we're planning to conquer Earth, we need to prove we can safely handle human food products. It's regulation. Visitix's tentacles drooped. How many forms are there? 743, in triplicate. And they need to be filled out in blue ink only. Also, they've scheduled our invasion threat for review by the Committee for Evaluating Potentially Apocalyptic Events, but the next available slot is in 8 months. Back on Earth, Luna was dealing with her own bureaucratic crisis. The Galactic Council had attempted to bypass traditional channels by simultaneously broadcasting their war declaration to every television, radio, and electronic device on the planet. This, of course, violated at least 15 different communication regulations. Did they submit a broadcasting rights request? Luna asked, reaching for her favorite mug, the one that said "I turn coffee into paperwork." Tom checked the files. No, they also didn't pay the mandatory interstellar communication tax or file an environmental impact statement for the energy used in their holographic projection. Amateurs. Luna pulled out a fresh stack of citation forms. Better send them a notice of violation. Oh, and add a pamphlet about proper filing procedures. The illustrated one with the cute cartoon folders. The Council's next attempt at intimidation came in the form of a massive space fleet positioned in low Earth orbit. Unfortunately, they hadn't accounted for Earth's satellite parking regulations. You can't park there, Luna informed them via video call. That's a designated satellite lane. You'll need to move your fleet about 3 parsecs to the left and display valid parking permits in all viewports. We are an invasion fleet, protested Admiral Kex of the Council's Armada. We don't need parking permits. Section 47, Paragraph 9 of the International Space Traffic Code clearly states that all vessels, whether peaceful or hostile, must comply with orbital parking regulations. I'm afraid I'll have to issue you a ticket. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in succession. A ticket, plus late fees, since you've been illegally parked for over an hour now. Would you like to set up a payment plan? In the Council's war room, Visitix was beginning to develop what humans would call a migraine. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How can they be this bureaucratic? Suggested Plex, who was currently on page 394 of the Earth's Invasion Processing Guidelines. Exactly, we're supposed to be the masters of bureaucracy, We once delayed a species' technological advancement by 3 centuries just by misplacing their paperwork. Sir, you might want to see this, Plex said, holding up a tablet. They've responded to our threat of total annihilation with a strongly worded letter expressing concern about our carbon footprint during the proposed planetary bombardment, and they've included a 70-page sustainability report. Luna, meanwhile, was having the time of her life. She hadn't had this much paperwork to organize since the Great Coffee Machine Uprising of 2156, which, contrary to popular belief, had nothing to do with artificial intelligence and everything to do with Commander Murphy's aggressive repair techniques. Tom, she called out, please send the Council a reminder about their pending spacecraft registration, and add a note about the noise complaint we received. Apparently, their doomsday weapons charging sequence is exceeding local decibel limits after 10 p.m. As Luna filed away another stack of citations under F4 interstellar incidents pending, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best defense wasn't a good offense. It was a perfectly organized filing system and an intimate knowledge of regulatory procedures. The war, it seemed, would have to wait until all the proper paperwork was completed. In triplicate, of course. The annual International Hot Dog Eating Championship was not perhaps humanity's proudest achievement, but it was certainly one of its most enthusiastically defended traditions, as the Galactic Council was about to discover. Randy the Stomach Thompson stood before the crowd at Coney Island, stretching his jaw in preparation for his defense of the coveted mustard belt. His trainer Mike was giving him the usual pep talk. Remember, champ, he pushed you against the hot dogs. Everything else is just... Mike trailed off, staring at the massive alien warship that had just materialized above the boardwalk. Huh, that's different. Randy glanced up while continuing his jaw exercises. They better not be here for the hot dogs. I've been carb loading for this moment for weeks. The ship's speakers crackled to life. Attention, primitive beings. We have chosen this gathering as the site of our first demonstration of power. Surrender now or hey. Randy shouted up at the ship. We've got a competition about to start here. Some of us have been training for months. There was a pause, then. Your sporting events are irrelevant in the face of 15-time champion. Randy interrupted, pointing at his chest. Do you know how many hot dogs I had to eat to get here? How many nights I spent perfecting my water bun ratio? I'm not letting some floating jellyfish ruin my shot at number 16. Aboard the warship, War Minister Deck turned to Chancellor Visitix with all 4 of his eye stalks raised. Sir, should we just vaporize them? According to regulations, Visitix replied, consulting his manual, we should first understand what primitive ritual we're interrupting. Anthropological documentation is very important for proper conquest procedures, and that's how the entire Galactic Council's military leadership ended up watching humanity's premier competitive eating championship. Wait, Deck said, leaning forward in his hover chair. They're going to eat how many in 10 minutes? Current record is 74, explained the competition announcer, who had quickly adapted to including alien dignitaries in his commentary. Randy here is hoping to hit 75 today. 74 meat tubes in 10 minutes. Visitix's tentacles curled in horrified fascination. That's impossible. Contestants ready. The announcer boomed. 3, 2, 1. Begin. What followed was 10 minutes that would go down in both Earth and galactic history. Randy the Stomach Thompson, perhaps motivated by the presence of an alien audience, transcended all previous achievements in competitive eating. By the sacred filing cabinets, whispered Plex, who had started keeping score. He's at 40 with 5 minutes still to go. The alien ship's sensors, originally deployed to target weak points in Earth's defenses, were hastily reprogrammed to track hot dog consumption rates. Warfare analysts found themselves calculating trajectories of water cup-to-mouth movements instead of missile paths. Look at his technique, exclaimed Admiral Kex, who had completely forgotten about the invasion. The way he separates the bun to allow for optimal moisture absorption. It's brilliant. As the final countdown began, even Chancellor Visitix found himself caught up in the moment. His tentacles twisted into stress knots. 10 seconds remaining. Randy grabbed his final plate of hot dogs. 5 seconds. The entire alien fleet held its breath. Those species that had breath to hold anyway. Time's up. Put down those dogs. The official counter approached the judges' table. The boardwalk fell silent. Even the seagulls seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. The official count, 76 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. A new world record. The crowd erupted. The alien ship's lights began flashing in what appeared to be spontaneous celebration. Chancellor Visitix found himself waving his tentacles in what his species considered applause. "Sir," Deck said carefully, "should we proceed with the invasion demonstration?" Visitix watched as Randy was presented with the mustard belt, the champion's face showing the peculiar mix of triumph and mild nausea that only a competitive eater can truly achieve. "I don't think we can," Visitix replied. "According to Section 7, Paragraph 12 of the Galactic Conquest Guidelines, we cannot interrupt a demonstration of superior capability." Superior capability. Did you see how many hot dogs he ate? Our species would explode if we tried that. Literally explode. I think we just witnessed a display of devastating biological warfare capabilities. And so, humanity's first battle with the Galactic Council ended not with a bang but with a burp. Randy the Stomach Thompson was later awarded Earth's highest civilian honor for gastrointestinal diplomacy in the face of alien aggression. The hot dogs for their part maintained a dignified silence on the whole affair. The Global Defense Command's hiring standards had dropped significantly since the coffee machine incident of 2156. This explained why Max Rodriguez, a 22-year-old political science intern whose main qualification was being pretty good at Twitter, found himself appointed as Earth's chief diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council. "So," Max said, slouching in his chair aboard the bureaucratic inevitability, "you guys ever heard of TikTok?" Chancellor Visic's tentacles twitched in what might have been a stress response. "We are here to discuss terms of your planet's surrender, not your primitive communication methods." "Cool, cool," Max nodded, pulling out his phone. "But first you gotta see this video of a cat playing piano. It's literally the most important thing that's ever happened in human history." 3 hours later, the Council's war room had descended into complete chaos. "But why," demanded War Minister Deck, "does the small furry creature require a cheeseburger, and why is its grammar so poor?" "That's the beauty of it," Max explained, now sitting cross-legged on the conference table. "The cat doesn't actually want a cheeseburger. It's an expression of existential dread in a capitalist society, but like, with funny spelling." Plex, who had been taking notes, threw down his datapad in frustration. "None of this makes sense. Your species communicates through deliberately corrupted language, repetitive audio segments, and images of cats. How do you maintain a civilization? Bold of you to assume we maintain it." Max replied, taking a sip from his energy drink. "Mostly we just vibe and hope for the best." The Council's cultural analysts were having nervous breakdowns trying to decode human communication patterns. One of them had spent 6 hours trying to understand why humans responded to almost anything with "that's what she said," and was now curled up in the corner, muttering about contextual implications. "Let us focus on the matter at hand," Visitix insisted, trying to regain control of the situation. "Your planet has demonstrated concerning levels of chaos and unpredictability. Our analysis shows." "Hold that thought," Max interrupted, holding up his phone. "You guys are gonna love this. It's a video of a guy trying to open a pickle jar for 5 minutes straight, but every time he fails it plays the Titanic theme on a kazoo." Admiral Kex, who had been maintaining a dignified silence, couldn't help himself. "Show me." By the end of the day, the Council's entire command staff had been introduced to meme culture, viral videos, and the concept of rickrolling. 3 high-ranking officials had to be sedated after trying to understand the deeper meaning behind Doge speak. "This is unprecedented," Visitix declared, his tentacles now permanently twisted into anxiety knots. "Your species takes random elements, removes them from their original context, adds new meanings, and then continuously evolves those meanings, until they bear no resemblance to their original form. It's linguistic chaos. Wait till you hear about interpretive dance," Max said, reaching for another energy drink. The Council's attempts to maintain formal diplomatic protocols were further derailed when Max introduced them to emoji. The resulting debate about whether the eggplant emoji constituted a declaration of war lasted for 6 hours, and ended only when someone discovered the existence of cat emoji. "But what is the strategic significance of keyboard cat?" one of the military analysts demanded, their multiple eyes bloodshot from hours of YouTube research. "The neat thing is," Max explained, now spinning slowly in his hover chair. There isn't one, it's just a cat playing keyboard. That's the whole thing. Just a cat, playing keyboard. Yep, no deeper meaning. Nope. The analyst's eyes began twitching in sequence. But there must be some significance. Your species wouldn't spend millions of hours watching it without a reason. Max shrugged. Sometimes things are just vibing. The concept of vibing sent the council's philosophy department into a 6-day meditation retreat. In his daily report back to Earth, Max summarized the situation. Pretty sure I've convinced them that all human culture is just elaborate shitposting. Also, Chancellor Vizix keeps trying to understand the cultural importance of Big Chungus. Request additional meme resources, and perhaps some cat videos. Also, we're running low on energy drinks. Commander Murphy read the report and sighed. Linda, he called out, add potential meme warfares to the situation assessment, and order more energy drinks for the diplomatic team, regular or sugar-free. At this point, I don't think it matters. The fate of Earth might depend on our ability to explain why humans put sunglasses on dogs. Meanwhile, aboard the bureaucratic inevitability, Max had just introduced the council to the concept of dad jokes. But why? Vizix asked, his voice weak with confusion. Why would the human be hungry? I'm dad. That's not even their name. Max grinned. Earth's first line of defense, it turned out, wasn't its military might or technological advancement. It was its ability to make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and they were just getting started. The truth behind the Galactic Council's declaration of war was discovered by accident, when junior cultural analyst Meepy made what their species considered a rookie mistake. They actually watched Earth's television broadcasts instead of just cataloging them for future destruction. Chancellor, Meepy burst into the war room, waving multiple data tablets with their tentacles. I believe there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Vizix, who had spent the last 3 hours trying to understand why humans found pictures of frogs on unicycles so compelling, looked up wearily. What is it now? The broadcasts we intercepted meet, the ones that led us to classify humans as dangerously unstable. They're not historical records, they're something called reality television. The room fell silent, broken only by the sound of Max snoring in the corner, surrounded by empty energy drink cans. What do you mean not historical records? War Minister Deck demanded. We watched humans competing for mates by living on isolated islands. We saw them fighting over small loans from wealthy investors. We witnessed their brutal singing competitions. Their entertainment programs, Meepy explained. The humans create artificial scenarios for amusement. Those people aren't actually fighting for survival. They're competing for something called prize money and social media followers. Vizix's tentacles went limp. You mean to tell me, our entire basis for declaring war was their entertainment programming? I'm afraid so, sir. We apparently based our species threat assessment on something called the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. The council's chief strategist, Caxthor, who had been unusually quiet lately, suddenly perked up. Oh, is that the one where the human female threw a glass of fermented grape juice at her rival during the season finale? Masterful tactical maneuver, that was. Everyone turned to stare at Caxthor, who suddenly seemed very interested in studying the ceiling. Caxthor, Vizix said slowly, have you been watching human television? Purely for research purposes, of course, Caxthor said defensively. Although, does anyone know if Jessica ever found out that Brad was actually her long-lost twin brother's evil clone? I had to miss yesterday's episode due to planning the invasion. Max, who had woken up during this exchange, raised his hand. Oh man, wait till you guys discover soap operas. 3 days later, the council's entire military command structure had effectively ceased to function. The war room had been converted into what Max termed a binge-watching center, complete with snacks that were hopefully compatible with various alien digestive systems. But why doesn't Ross simply tell Rachel his feelings? Admiral Kex demanded, all 4 eyes glued to the screen. Their mating ritual has been ongoing for multiple solar cycles. That's the beauty of it, Max explained, opening another bag of chips. They're on a break. The phrase on a break required 17 hours of linguistic analysis and caused 2 minor diplomatic incidents. Meanwhile, Caxthor had become completely obsessed with cooking competition shows. The time constraints are purely arbitrary, they exclaimed during one particularly heated strategy session. Why not simply allow the humans adequate time to properly prepare their nutrient combinations? That's not the point, Max said. The point is watching them panic when they realize they forgot to turn the oven on. The Council's Advancement Assessment Team had to completely revise their analysis of human civilization. Their previous conclusion that Earth was a planet of dangerously unstable warriors was replaced with a new assessment. Earth was a planet of dangerously creative entertainment producers. How do they come up with these concepts? Plex wondered, watching a show about people baking cakes that looked like everyday objects. Who sees a normal food item and thinks, yes, but what if it looked exactly like a tennis shoe? Wait till you see the one where they make dresses out of unconventional materials. Max grinned. There's this one episode with nothing but duct tape, Vizek said, watching his mighty invasion force devolve into a bunch of television addicts, finally had to face reality. We may have made a slight error in our initial assessment of Earth. To be fair, Max said, scrolling through Netflix, most of us don't understand our own media either. We just kind of go with it. But how do you govern a society that produces such chaos? Bold of you to assume we govern it, Max replied, using his favorite phrase. Mostly we just make memes about how weird everything is and call it a day. The final blow to the Council's war effort came when someone discovered YouTube cat videos. The entire invasion fleet's computer system nearly crashed from the volume of simultaneous streaming requests. Sir, Plex reported, trying to maintain some semblance of professional dignity despite having just spent 6 hours watching compilation videos of cats knocking things off tables. I believe we may need to reconsider our approach to Earth. Vizix, who had recently started his own reaction channel, could only nod in agreement. The galaxy, it seemed, was not prepared for human entertainment. And somewhere in the depths of space, the first alien Netflix subscription was created. The official peace negotiations between Earth and the Galactic Council took place, at Max's insistence, in Tony's Pizzeria in Brooklyn. Chancellor Vizix had initially objected to the venue but was swayed by the establishment's 4.8-star rating on grumpydiners.com. So let me get this straight, Tony said, watching his newest customers with remarkable composure for someone serving pizza to a group of tentacled aliens. You guys declared war on Earth because you watch too much reality TV. In our defense, Vizix said, trying to figure out how to eat a slice of pepperoni pizza with tentacles, your bachelor program suggested your species had very concerning mate selection protocols. Nah, that's just entertainment. Tony shrugged. Nobody actually picks their spouse that way. Well, almost nobody. My cousin Vinny did try something similar, but we don't talk about that Thanksgiving. The peace conference had turned into something of a cultural exchange program, with the council representatives experiencing their first taste of Earth cuisine while humanity's delegates, mainly Max and whoever else happened to be in the pizzeria at the time, explained the finer points of human civilization. And these small spicy fish, Admiral Kex asked, pointing at his pizza. They're not some kind of biological warfare agent. Those are anchovies, Max explained. And whether they're biological warfare is actually a pretty controversial topic on Earth. Commander Murphy, who had finally been dragged away from his newly repaired coffee machine to attend the negotiations, watched the proceedings with a mix of amusement and resignation. Should we maybe discuss the actual peace treaty? Oh right, Max said, reaching into his backpack. He pulled out a slightly pizza-stained document. I drafted something up. The main points are: Earth keeps doing its thing, the Council stops trying to invade us, and we agree to share our streaming services with the galaxy. Also, Tony gets exclusive rights to open the first pizzeria in Galactic Council space. Tony, who had been quietly calculating the logistics of intergalactic pizza delivery, perked up at this. This is highly irregular, Vizix protested. Where are the formal declarations? The nested subsections? The appendices about appendices? Check page 2, Max said, taking another bite of pizza. Page 2 consisted entirely of memes explaining the treaty points through various viral formats. I don't understand, Vizix said, his tentacles twisting in confusion. How is this legally binding? We included a picture of a cat giving a thumbs up, Max pointed out. Can't get more official than that. Meanwhile, Caxthar had discovered garlic knots and was experiencing what their species considered a religious revelation. These nutrient clusters, they're just bred with aromatic compounds. Wait till you try them with the marinara sauce, Tony said, already planning his galactic franchise empire. The actual signing of the peace treaty was delayed by 3 hours because someone showed the council representatives a compilation of pizza-making videos on TikTok. This led to an impromptu pizza-making lesson in Tony's kitchen, which nearly resulted in another war declaration when Plex and Admiral Kex got into a heated debate about proper cheese distribution techniques. The coverage must be uniform, Kex insisted, waving multiple appendages in agitation. Random cheese clustering creates unpredictable flavor distributions, but the irregular patterns create texture variation, Plex argued back. It's basic culinary physics. Finally, after much pizza consumption and meme sharing, the treaty was ready to be signed. The historic moment was nearly derailed again when someone's cat video playlist started auto-playing on the ceremonial datapad. But Commander Murphy managed to save the situation by declaring the cat video an official treaty witness. There's just one more thing, Vizix said, trying to sound dignified despite having tomato sauce on several of his tentacles. We need to address the hot dog eating situation. Our military analysts are still concerned about its implications for biological warfare. Tell you what, Max said, we'll throw in a complete box set of competitive eating championship recordings, for research purposes. Acceptable, Vizix nodded. Though we may need clarification on the rules of wasabi consumption competitions, and so, peace was achieved through the universal languages of pizza, memes and streaming entertainment. Tony's Intergalactic Pizzeria became the most popular restaurant in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, though there was an ongoing debate about whether pineapple was considered a war crime in certain sectors. Commander Murphy returned to his coffee machine, though he did occasionally accept speaking engagements about the Great Coffee Machine Incident and other tales of Earth's first contact. Luna Patel created a new filing system for interstellar diplomatic relations, with a special section just for pizza-related treaties. Randy the Stomach Thompson went on to defend his title 6 more times, though he politely declined challenges from various alien species citing unfair advantage of multiple stomachs. As for Max, he was appointed Earth's permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council primarily because no one else understood how to explain human culture through the medium of cat videos and reaction GIFs. The Council, for its part, had to create an entirely new department dedicated to analyzing human entertainment media, if only to prevent future misunderstandings. They also had to implement strict regulations about binge-watching during working hours after 3-star systems nearly collided because their traffic controllers were too busy arguing about season finales. And somewhere in the vast bureaucratic archives of the Galactic Council filed under M for miscellaneous Earth phenomena, there's a document that simply reads, "Humanity just don't ask. Seriously. Also try the garlic knots."